Alrighty, so I'm gonna start recording. Thanks for being here, guys. For those of you that are not familiar, I am Chocolato, the co-founder of the Collective Studio, and glad you guys are here with us to talk about networking. So, just a quick kind of icebreaker. If you guys are able to use the chat, can you let us know where you're from, or if you could see the share screen? We just want to make sure that you guys are following us. Hi there, and for anyone who's joining, just a reminder to please mute your mic because the speaker is going to start talking. And if you could also let us know if you could see us, hear us, please use the chat. Alrighty, so we have some people from Ohio, Seattle. I'm from Toronto, Canada, and so is our speaker.
Yes, Toronto.
Although you're in Kitchener now, right?
Yes, Kitchener until tomorrow, and then I go back to Toronto.
Okay, very good. We have another person from NYC. It's awesome.
Cayman Islands, wow.
Wow! I didn't know you were in the Cayman Islands. So jealous.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah,
beautiful. I'm just visiting for a month though, so it's been really nice.
Must be.
month is a nice time.
It
Mm-hmm.
is, yeah, I feel super grateful.
Okay, so it's been about a minute, and yeah, I guess I'll just leave the floor to Kedice. So I'll leave it to her to begin her presentation.
Cool. Thank you, Melanie, and the team at TCS for asking me to be here. And thank you, everyone else, for tuning in from wherever you are, like West Coast, Cayman Islands, and Seattle. Um, so I guess when Melanie and Louise reached out to me a couple of weeks ago asking if I could give a talk to this organization here, I felt it was best to kind of share my experiences and tips on how to have coffee calls as a designer to kind of help create those genuine connections because it is a part of the process if you're looking for new opportunities or if you just want to level up in your career. So, to answer the question, who am I? I would tell you that I'm someone who is a lifelong learner. If anyone has done the Meyer Briggs personality assessment, I'm actually profiled as an INTJ. And I know a lot of people have their thoughts on Meyer Briggs, but for me, I feel like it is kind of close to accurate to my personality because I am introverted by nature. So, and I'm also just like thoughtful, inquisitive about any and everything. And I guess another thing about me, I know this is kind of contradictory to the topic and also like the visual theme of this presentation, but honestly, at heart, I'm more of a tea person than coffee person. It's like a hit or miss with enjoying coffee. So right now I'm actually drinking peppermint tea, but like let me know in the chat if you guys prefer tea or coffee during your calls or listening to talks like these. Melanie's an ENTP close. I feel like now that we're getting closer to the holidays, I might convert over to coffee, but we'll see. So, I would like to share my journey of how I got into UX briefly. It's kind of hard for me to kind of pinpoint when my journey started, but I could tell you that in some ways I was more of a digital design enthusiast, meaning like I was the person in high school taking like the Photoshop and Illustrator courses, and also like visiting my local library to kind of work on my creative assignments that I had during that time. After graduating high school, I actually thought I was going to do something related to the health sciences due to coming from an immigrant background. If you know, you know. But then I learned that the word options existed. So I chose the option not to pursue health sciences. And instead, I just ended up studying media and communication studies at the University of Guelph Humber, that's based in the GTA. Oh, we got a team coffee person here. During my time during my undergrad, I found myself liking my web design courses a bit more, and that's when I came across the term UX. But for me, in that course, it was taught to me as a best practice rather than an actual profession. So whenever I was working on my web design assignments and projects, I would always like research more into UX best practices, and then that's when I learned that being a UX designer was an actual career and it aligned with like what I liked and what I could do. So during my last year of my undergrad, I taught myself how to use programs like XD and Figma, read a lot of like UX and product design related books, and also took like short courses to kind of position myself as a UX designer. So since 2020, I've had the privilege of working at two different companies. My first role as a UX designer was at a company called Communitech, and that was back in 2020, 2021. And during my time there, I just like helped small businesses kind of develop their e-commerce store to kind of help them improve their digital presence and also tailor their user journey according to their audience. And then after my time at Communitech, I joined a design and software consultancy space based in Kitchener. And during my time there, which was over the past year until May, because I did get laid off, unfortunately, but I worked on a navigation app gained to cycling enthusiasts. And at the moment, I am back in the job market looking for new opportunities and just like preparing for my next chapter. And I don't know what that could be yet. So to get into this presentation, I'll be covering a few items in this talk. I'll be talking about like why we want to be having coffee chats, especially if you are a UX or product designer, how to reach out to people in different environments, and then I'll be sharing some strategies on like how to come up with questions to kind of have that meaningful and valuable conversation. So, why should we be doing coffee chats as designers? I know when we hear coffee chats, it's something that's more talked about and encouraged if you come from a background in like business or like entrepreneurship. And being a product or a UX designer, I feel like in our studies and also in like the workplace, we don't really talk about having coffee chats, especially if you're just starting out in this role. So, for one reason for why we want to be doing this is to practice the skill of communication. And as a designer, it's important to build that soft skill because I would say that a good part of your job is going to be people. And by people, I don't mean like just testing your designs with different user bases, but also to like stakeholders and different team members as well. And also just like talking in of itself, you're practicing on how to be more articulate and how to build rapport with different kinds of people. Another reason for why we want to be doing coffee chats as a designer is to kind of develop your network. And I know, like, as UX or product designers, we come from all different walks of life. And it might not be organic to kind of build connections with people in the same profession as you. So, with that being said, you're going to have to be more intentional in fostering these kind of relationships. And back in 2020, when I was trying to get into the industry working as a UX designer, I made it a goal to kind of have at least three coffee calls a month. And with having those calls, I was able to connect with people at companies I admire, also connect with different professors because I was also considering taking like a master degree or a boot camp as well. And I was also being able to kind of make friends with different people where I could just talk about design with and also just go to networking events together. Next, having coffee chats is also like a great way to kind of learn more about a company that you're interested in. And for me, with being back in the job market and also talking to other designers from different seniority levels, I'm learning so much about different companies that I wouldn't have known with just researching them or just visiting their newswire page or their page on LinkedIn. And earlier in the summer, I had a coffee call with a VP of product design at a bank here in Canada. And he told me, like, as a hiring manager, when he's looking at portfolios, what stands out to him are like applicants that have case studies either related to like finance or case studies that include certain technologies like AI and machine learning in their work projects and also conceptual projects as well. And this was new to me because years ago, and by years, I mean like just 3 years ago, having a couple of case studies was like good enough to kind of land you that first interview. But with the market being like really competitive, I learned that if I want to work in certain areas of tech, like fintech, for example, I had to position my portfolio in a way that would kind of attract those hiring managers in that space. Lastly, as designers, we want to be doing coffee chats just to kind of contribute to the collective knowledge. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the phrase each one teach one, but it basically means like if you know something that someone would kind of value or benefit from, then you should share it. And yes, like with having coffee chats, the goal is to like take away some learnings, but you should also give when you can too as well. And this is because when you want to these relationships and kind of grow them. Like relationships are based off of exchanges. So you should also give when you can too as well. And I have an interesting story I would like to share that kind of relates to this point. So back in, I guess like the summer of 2019, um, I did see an opportunity to work at a startup where the design team was like really small. And I was trying to kind of my shot to like maybe get an internship there. And I was able to reach out with a designer who worked there. And in our coffee chat with her, I asked her like, what are some of the challenges that your design team is having? And she told me like as a startup, like doing user testing is so important to them, but they were having issues with like organizing and maintaining their database for user research. And with me just learning as much as I can about UX, I recommend a platform that she could use to kind of help organize her data rather than just using simple like Google Docs and Sheets to kind of manually organize that data. And even though I wasn't able to like land an opportunity there, I could tell that she really valued that recommendation. And I know if any future opportunities at that company would come up, I could always get her to kind of vouch or refer me to certain roles. So now we know of the importance of like having coffee calls as designers. We have to figure out like where can I find professional content. In the first place, I would like look for people, especially when I was just starting out, would be social media, which is something that we're all familiar with. So for me, I've had chat with people from Discord and Fishbowl. If you guys don't know what Fishbowl is basically like a social media similar to LinkedIn, and it's just like the anonymous version. And those like are good places to start. But from my own experience, I recommend LinkedIn. And this is because people on LinkedIn expect to kind of have conversations related to what they do and where they work. But again, to kind of reiterate my point about contributing to the collective knowledge, if you guys have experience with like connecting with people from other platforms, like maybe Reddit, tell me about it. Another way of finding people to also chat with as professional contacts can also be within your own existing network. So, tapping into your own network is a great way because being introduced to someone and where you have like a mutual friend in common is such a great way to kind of find other people's. And that's because it'll initiate that ripple effect for more opportunities to kind of connect with other people from their own network. So, during my undergrad, when I thought I wanted to be a graphic designer, there was a summer I was doing physiotherapy. And I guess for my physiotherapist to build a rapport with me, he did ask me, like, what am I studying and what I wanted to get into. And I told him that I wanted to kind of work at an advertising agency downtown Toronto, being a graphic designer. And he told me that his wife was actually a human resource manager at a major advertising agency and encouraged me to talk to her, in which I did. And for me being back into the market, I actually noticed like a lot of creative and advertising agencies are now looking for like product designers. So I actually reached out to her this week asking if she could kind of introduce me to those people that are already looking. So yeah, that's just an example of like how I'm still finding people to connect with and the ripple effect I'm getting from that. So another place of finding professional contacts to connect with is like virtual events like this. So I follow other organizations that have these webinars and talks similar to what TCS does. And as an attendee at those events, I'm always like connecting with the speakers to kind of add to my network on LinkedIn. And if I'm curious to learn more about where they work or their career track as a designer, I might even like follow up and ask them for like 15 minutes of their time to kind of talk about what I'm interested in. And if you guys being the attendee and me being a speaker, if you guys are interested on like talking to me, feel free to like add me on LinkedIn. And I see a question here by Laurel. Kedice, could you share the software that you recommend for the person needing user research support? Yeah, so it's called Dovetail, and I'll probably share the link to that after this talk as well. And my last recommendation for finding professional contacts to kind of connect with can be from certain UX design blogs. And this might seem a bit kind of unusual, but hopefully not too stalkerish. But I'm subscribed to like a few Medium pages and UX Planet and other blogs, just to name a few. And if I'm reading an article that I find really interesting, like I will actually like connect with the author on LinkedIn as a resource, and I might even like reach out just to learn more about their work or even just talk about certain best practices that they wrote about. So I hope I've explained the importance of like why we want to talk to people as designers, and also like how to find people we could connect with. So with that being established, I want to talk about like how to plan and craft meaningful conversations, and I do have some strategies to help with this. So the first strategy being obvious, like know who you're talking to. And this means like learn about their background of like how they got into UX or product design. And sometimes this information might be on their LinkedIn, but sometimes it's not. If you see the person on LinkedIn, you could also like review their work experience to kind of see some of their past role, and also how to gauge like how they probably just got into the role that they're in right now. And with knowing that background, it will help you to figure out like what questions are best to ask them. And besides like knowing their career track, try and look for similarities that you might have in common with them. Like, did they study a similar degree that you came from? Did they immigrate from a different country? Did they work at a similar company as you? Are they a freelancer? Or do they like tea instead of coffee? Like, who knows? But knowing their career background and other things about them will not only help you define like what questions that you should be asking them, but just knowing that things that you guys have in common with that person that you're connecting with will help you like establish at least like an acquaintance level relationship if you guys know about those similarities. So now that you have like a better understanding of who you're talking to, you need to determine your objectives for this call. And the objectives could be anything, but you want to keep your objectives in mind to kind of help you anchor your conversation to kind of get the most value out of it. So these objectives could be like learning about their design process, or how do they work cross-functionally with different team members at a company. The objective could also be like to get a mentor or get feedback on your portfolio, or even just get a referral for a job opportunity. And for me recently, my objectives for chatting with people in the position that I'm in today is just to learn more about a company that I'm interested in, and also fingers crossed getting that job referral. And I have to say, with the most of the interviews I've been doing in this job market was the support of a referral or a direct contact. And my approach to that was making sure that I'm connected with the right individual, building that rapport by understanding who they are, and also making sure that I'm defining my questions to kind of attain that objective. So with having an objective in mind to kind of help you think about like what question are best to ask the person that you're connecting with, you need to plan your questions as you would do if you were doing a user interview. And when planning a user interview, if anyone is a UX or product designer, you would have that interview script to help you guide that conversation. And I know when we hear of the word script, you guys might think, okay, you're maybe coming up as too scripty or too rigid. But in a book called Articulating Design Decisions by Tom Griever, he recommends that writing a script for any communication you're doing as a designer. And I believe that this should extend to your coffee chats as well. So yes, actually having an interview script for your calls is actually a good way to kind of get that meaningful insight from that conversation. And in your interview script, you could like jot down notes of like, okay, how do I want to introduce myself to this individual? What are some icebreaker questions I could ask them, because this is a person I'm meeting for the first time? And also in your interview script, this is where you would include your list of questions that you want to ask the individual that you're connecting with. And just having that question written out, you're able to kind of review those questions to make sure that it's aligned with the objective that you have in mind. And you are able to kind of identify, okay, are the questions that I'm asking open-ended? Because it's important to have open-ended questions to kind of get those insightful responses. So yes, have a script for your conversation, but also at the same time, keep the call more conversation focused. And that's because you want to share your own thoughts and experiences with the person you're talking to kind of develop and foster that relationship. And at the end of this talk, I did put together a resource for a list of coffee chat questions that you guys could include in your own coffee chats for your professional content. And I believe Laura will also share the link for that in the audio channel chat as well. So you've connected with the person you wanted to talk to. You've had the coffee chat, but now you need to cultivate your new connection. And there are a couple of ways I recommend for fostering relationships like this. The first one being just show genuine interest in the person's work and experiences. And if you have that contact on LinkedIn and they shared something on their page, be sure to like engage with their post by giving a reaction or a comment. So this means like if something happened in their career, like they just got a promotion or they landed a different role, ask them what it's like. Another thing that I like to do to kind of cultivate my own relationships in my professional network is also just like touching base on like holidays and other occasions. And this is something that I would do annually. So for the past few New Year's, like I will spend at least an afternoon just sending my connections like a message saying, Happy New Year's, so and so, wishing you the best in 2020 something. And messages like this kind of helps them recall that relationship they have with you. You can also offer to help, and that's like a good way of just cultivating this new connection that you have with this person. And again, like this goes back to the point I made about just contributing to the collective knowledge, where you should be able to kind of give back in some kind of way. And this could be just offering to help them. So if they're working on a design project and they're doing user testing on, that's like an opportunity for you to kind of volunteer to be a participant, or if you know some tools that will kind of help them with their processes or any design project that they're working on, you could also recommend that to them as well. And having that relationship be more mutual and also symbiotic is a great way because, again, good relationships are based off of exchanges. And the last way I would recommend to for cultivating new relationships is that if any major news has happened in your career, you should be able to share that with them. And this is because people like hearing good news, and I feel like we need more of that, especially in the time that we're in right now. So if you feel like the person you're talking to would care if you just publish your article for the first time, or you landed a new opportunity, just share that with them. So we are getting close to the end of this talk, so I'm just going to recap and wrap up what I've discussed. So as a designer, start chatting with people, and if you're already doing that, keep doing that throughout your career. Also, for finding professional contacts to connect with, if you're already using social media, try tapping into your own existing network to find other people to talk to. And if you're the designer that prefers to talk to people that you already know, give social media a chance, like someone from here on Discord or LinkedIn, for example. And for any future coffee chats that you guys are having in the future, have that interview script in mind to kind of help you guide your conversation and also making sure that the conversation that you'll be having with the individual is meaningful and valuable. And even after the call, don't just forget about the individual that you just chat with. Like check in from time to time just to kind of cultivate that new connection. So here are some resources if anyone is interested in learning more about like coffee chats or just navigating networking. And if you're just interested in just like building communication, which is something that I'm always trying to improve on, these are just some resources I recommend. So as I mentioned earlier, the book Articulating Design Decisions by Tom Griever is a good resource for like how to improve your communication as a product or UX designer. A creator on YouTube, Exo Renee, has a video on like coffee chats one-on-one. And in that video, she provides more tips on like how to structure your meeting and best etiquette during coffee chats. So I recommend for you guys to check that as well. And I listen to a lot of podcasts related to like product and UX design. And the one I recommend is Design Life by Charlie and Femke, because they do have a couple of good episodes related to just navigating networking and building your professional community. Well, thank you to everyone for tuning into my talk. We're at the end. Thank you to Melanie and the team at TCS for having me. I hope you guys took something away from this talk and you guys feel more encouraged to kind of build out those genuine connections.
Great. Thank you very much for the talk. That was amazing. And now it's time for questions. So, if you guys have any questions, feel free to unmute your mics now and ask, or you could use the text channel to write out your questions. So, yeah, thanks for the talk, Kedice. That was really cool, and I love the resources that you shared. If possible, can you maybe share a link to some of the books or videos that you mentioned on the
Oh
slides?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think I included a QR code, but I could just share with the direct link to the specific slide for you guys to see.
Absolutely. Do we have any questions for Cadiz? I don't have a question, but I have like something to share, like a comment. Um, So
Hmm.
when it comes to networking, I think this is something that I've also done myself is not only just sticking to a script, but also reaching out to professionals that are either doing like webinar talks and stuff like that. Because I find that in webinars, it's a little bit easier to kind of like ask the speaker directly if you're able to kind of address certain things that you're interested in knowing about UX design, especially if you're entering the field. Um, and then when it comes to like crafting messages for LinkedIn, one thing that I've done before is kind of reaching out to either authors, writers, or people who are kind of like doing a lot of social media. Like they present themselves as being like a public personality. And I kind of try to like pick their brains and find out like whether the company that they're working at is actually looking for UX designers. And sometimes when you start things off with like a genuine compliment, so instead of like sending a message like, "Hi, you seem interesting and I want to talk to you," what I found was helpful is like saying something that's specific. So if you've read someone's article, just like mention to them, "Hey, I read your article on product design, and this statement here, it really moved me. Can we talk more about your knowledge and about what you do? Because I'm really interested in getting into UX design." Because then it seems like natural and genuine. And yeah, I found that it has helped to get responses. So yeah, I totally agree with like some of the examples that you were sharing in your talk. So yeah, I just wanted to
Yeah.
say that yes, it does work.
Yeah, for sure. And I also feel like it's like also like a part of like human nature. Like people like talking about themselves, and the fact that you took time out to kind of understand what they do for work or some of the projects that they've done, like they appreciate that. And that would kind of make them more inclined to kind of have that 15-minute coffee chat with you.
Definitely. And Itzy has a question here. If I see a job at their company, how do you recommend reaching them?
Oh yeah, so I've been doing this a lot. Like I have like no shame at all. Like if I see a job at their company and I have them as an existing connection on my LinkedIn, I would just like reach out saying, "Hi, my name is so and so. I'm a product designer. I see that your company is looking for this role I'm interested in. Are you available to chat sometime this week so I can learn more about the company and your experience working there?" And usually people like, yes, I'll chat with you, or no, because I'm too busy. And if they do say no, sometimes I'll follow up and ask, like, okay, do you prefer if I ask my questions over LinkedIn messaging, or you have like other people for recommendations of who I could talk to?
Mm. Yeah, that's a
So
good
yeah,
idea.
there are ways to kind of get around that. The goal is to kind of have that video chat so you could kind of connect with them one on one.
hmm And I guess if you don't have anyone from that particular company as a LinkedIn connection, you could also go to the LinkedIn company page and look at employees that actually list them as an employer. Sometimes it's fake because sometimes people do put on their profiles that they're currently working at a company and they don't. So it's important to do a little bit of research. Just look them up, see if they are currently working with that company or just a past employer. And maybe like start sending messages to maybe product managers, product designers, senior designers, whoever you can get in contact with, because like Kitty says, they might know who HR is. They could reconnect you to someone who has more influence. So yeah, it's just research and then also asking the right questions to the right people. And yeah, so someone asked if I could unmute. Yeah, definitely. You can unmute to ask your question. First, I'm going to read Itzy's follow up question. So Itzy says, how often do you recommend following up with a connection?
Yeah, so for me, like my rule of thumb, I try to at least once a year, and that's usually around like the New Year's holiday, usually before and after. I'm just sending that casual message just to check in, saying wishing you the best in 2027 for you and your family. And depending on the level of relationship I have with the individual, sometimes will be like once a quarter or once a month. Like it does depend on like the relationship you do have with the individual, but I recommend at least once a year, like a simple Happy New Year's. That will kind of help them recall that relationship they have with you.
Indeed. And Ashley and Barry, uh, if you would like to ask your questions on mic, feel free to unmute.
Absolutely. Thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Awesome. So, with LinkedIn, I'm not new to the website, but I was just curious what are your thoughts on the difference between following a person and connecting with the person, like actually doing the connection? Because I'll see people that
Yeah.
have 500 connections versus follow.
Yeah, for sure. That is a good question. And I've been using LinkedIn, like, say, since 2017. And when I started using the platform, I noticed like a lot of people when they just join LinkedIn, like their goal is to have like at least like 500 connection as like a flex in sort of a sense, so they could see that 500 plus. But for me, I wanted to be more intentional with the relationship I was fostering. So if it's like a high profile individual like Nielsen Norman, I know he's not going to connect with me on LinkedIn. So that would be like an example where I would like follow him instead or like follow the company page. And for me, with adding someone as a connection, like I would have to have an interest in them, either in their work experience or the company I'm connected with, or if I know them in real life, I would send out that connection request. But people have their different intentions and perceptions of like when you should kind of follow or connect with an individual, and that's just mine.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I also noticed this, but depending on the LinkedIn profile that you're trying to connect with, some people have LinkedIn Premium and they only allow messages from people who are also premium or people who are already connections with them. So I'm not very clear on this, but it seems like, yeah, sometimes you might be reaching a blockade where you can't directly send a message to someone. But then there's always alternatives if there's like an email address on their account, or they display their website, and on their website or portfolio it has a contact, um, email. Then that's another way around it as well.
That's good to know. I will definitely be looking for people's forums as well. I'm a premium member, but I have always had that back and forth feeling of it's like I don't want just 500 people following. I want 500 genuine connections. So,
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you for your question.
thank you.
And do we have any more questions for Kedice? I don't know about you, but when it comes to uh, networking, how aggressively do you network regularly? Like, is it every application you try to network with someone who works from the company, or is it only for like certain types of jobs?
Yeah, so I guess it depends on my season in life. Like, even when I was employed, like, I would kind of network casually. So I would go to networking events and connect with people from there. Or if I'm on LinkedIn and I find certain individuals interesting, or we have like a mutual connection in common, sometimes I would kind of send that personalized invite or connection, and even like have a chat over on LinkedIn, like an asynchronous chat where sometimes these coffee chats don't have to be like on call one on one. So that's just like a lower tier way of like networking. But with me being back on the job market and also having a lot more time, I would say I'm a bit more aggressive now, which is why my weeks has been so busy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, makes sense. Um, Also, I think this has happened to me a few times. Like I've gotten clients this way. Um, Sometimes when I'm on Reddit, I check out the startup subreddit to find out if there's like any business, like entrepreneurs or CEOs or co-founders that are kind of looking to launch their product because sometimes they need UX designers or developers, right? So I usually just look around, see if someone is having an issue, and try to like talk to them. And it's actually interesting. We've actually had a few prospective clients where they actually were trying to like improve their website and the performance wasn't working, and it was a easy way to like start offering my services as a designer to them. So that's also another way of like getting around getting a job, which is you can find freelance clients through social media. And sometimes it's just as simple as like talking to someone who is having a little bit of difficulty with their website, and then you find out, oh, hey, like this is something that I could solve with like UX design or research, or whether you're good at coding. So yeah, that's another way that you could go about it as well.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
and I'm wondering, do we have any comments or any uh, other questions about Kedice or maybe about UX design in general? So okay, here's a quick question for everyone. Um, how confident are you in your networking ability? Like, are you like super confident? Like, you could strike up a conversation with anyone, or do you feel like that's not quite easy to do?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I'm imagining like having icebreaker conversations could be like a topic of its own.
Absolutely. And it seems like your question script, I'm actually looking at it
Yeah.
right now. Um, oh, no, wait. I actually have the wrong link. That's actually the slide deck. Actually, Laurel, can you post the link to the questions in the chat so that we don't lose it?
Yeah, Discord should really have like that pinned feature for audio chats.
Yeah,
For
they do
sure.
have
Yes.
pinned messages, but it works differently. It like opens up a side panel where you can look at pins, but it's not very
Mhm.
visually easy to find. Okay, so if I look at the questions here, I think there's prompts, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Basically, questions you could include for your coffee chat script of like potential questions you could ask that professional contact that you are talking to.
Okay, got it. This is good. And Ashley says networking with mentors is pretty easy. Networking with peers and companies are not comfortable. Every chance is a way to practice and get more comfortable. Got it.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
mhm. I was gonna say, networking with mentors, I think might feel different because mentors are sort of obligated to like your growth and they want to help you. Whereas I think when it comes to chasing a job prospect, there is a lot of like you have to present yourself as being useful. If you go to an employer asking for help, that might be a turnoff from them to feel like perhaps that you're not confident in your skills. So yeah, it is like a little bit risky when you enter those kind of conversations. You don't want to make yourself look like a weak candidate, and yeah, it's really nerve wracking. Um,
Yeah. Also, like on that topic, that's why it's important to kind of have your objective in place to kind of help you anchor, okay, should I ask this question or should I ask that question in advance rather than on call with no preparation?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's also good to manage anxiety, especially if you're doing it virtually, because in person to person kind of situations, you may not have like a chat script with you, but during a call, it's totally fine to have a few questions to help prompt the conversation to move forward. That way, it feels a little bit natural, and then you don't have to panic or worry about not having anything to say.
Yeah, for sure. But also, like, honestly, like, when I did do like a few like in-person coffee chats, like, of course, like, I wouldn't have a script to kind of reference for. But if I feel like the conversation is going blank, like, I'm not afraid to like kind of whip out my phone and just revisit my notes and just tell the person, like, hey, there are a couple of questions I wanted to ask you, but I can't remember. I have my notes here, so let me just pull that up. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's just me
absolutely.
though.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Absolutely. Okay, so yeah, Ashley says that the questions are very helpful to them. So yeah, we hope that this document will stay on your Notion site for a while. Um,
Yeah.
if not, if you want to make this into like a PDF asset, let us know because we could help make that into something for you as well.
Okay, yeah, for sure. We could talk after about this. Yeah,
Yeah,
probably a PDF would be more long living.
yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Alrighty, so if that's it for questions, then thank you guys for being here. Uh, we enjoyed hosting this type of webinar. I'm definitely learning stuff all the time, so I also learn from the questions that you guys ask, and it really helps to keep the conversation going and to also extend our knowledge and our awareness for these things. But yeah, thanks for being here. One final note is if you guys have not thought about donating to the Collective Studio, we have a coffee page where you could actually donate to us either on a monthly basis or just one off. The donations help us to maintain our website, helps us to keep creating events for design sprints, and it just helps to keep this community alive so that we have a space for you guys to become better designers. So if you want to support us, please go to our coffee page. I'm just going to grab the link very quickly. Um, and if you also are wondering where to find the link, definitely go to the About Us channel. And you could also follow us on YouTube, on Instagram, LinkedIn. So if you want to find like the recording to this session again, you could also go there as well. Uh, just a second. In the meantime, Kedice, if you want to share links to follow you so that our members can follow you, that'd be good as
that
well.
actually is a really good idea. I'll share the link to my own LinkedIn if you guys want to have a coffee chat with me. I do have a lot of time these days, so if you guys want to talk about just like communication or my experience of like how I got to UX a bit more, feel free to, yeah.
Absolutely. Alrighty, so thanks for being here, guys, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Everyone, thank you, TCS, for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Bye bye.
Thank you.